talk about a video that I just watched from the creator Unfiltered Lucky. I'll link to the video in the episode description. And before I get into it, I just want to make clear, this isn't a critique of the creator. This is a deconstruction of the information he shares in his video. Lucky seems like a really nice guy, so again, this isn't me picking on him. This is more, I want to address some of the points he makes in this video. Now, the video is about his curiosity regarding how law enforcement assessed that it was a targeted attack, and he wonders, did they know all along, or did they have a suspect all along?
The coroner didn't even get to the house to look at the victims' bodies until over 12 hours after law enforcement believes that their lives were taken.
There are a lot of potential reasons for this. Now, it could be that they wanted the scene to be walked through and processed before an additional person came in there. It's also possible that they preferred to wait until the victims were identified and the identities were confirmed before bringing in the coroner. Because remember, Kaylee's parents were notified very late. I believe it was around 4 or 5 p.m., which is around the time that the coroner showed up to the scene.
At the very beginning of this press conference, Chief Fry states that due to the details that they found inside the crime scene, they believe with confidence that this was a targeted attack.
I went back to the press conference and I got a transcript, and this is what Chief Fry says. The journalist asks, how can you say it's a targeted attack if you don't have a suspect? And Fry says, like I said, we take the totality of the situation, we try to make the best of a bit of information we can with everything that comes in, and then we make our decision. The totality of the situation. Those are the key words there. That is not the same as details. Saying that there were details at the crime scene sort of implies that certain clues or signatures were left that would hint at who the suspect was. This was also the only house in the area that didn't have any cameras and had a sliding door. This is not random, and police knew this, so that made them think whoever did this had been watching this particular house. Watching it enough to know what the activity was of the people who lived inside of it. Knowing that, on Saturday nights they typically come home at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and maybe they're usually drunk, maybe. They probably believe that whoever did this knew the activity, knew the habits of the people who lived inside of it. Which really they would have had to. This is not somebody who just chose this house randomly. And then, of course, there's the brutality of the scene itself, which lends to the belief that whoever committed these crimes was somebody that the victims knew.
On this day, December 7th, law enforcement puts out a Be on the Lookout, this time to the public. And they're asking for anyone with any information about a 2011 to 2013 white Hyundai Elantra. So now they're putting it out into the public that they're looking for this white Hyundai. Now that's strange, because they already believe that they found this Hyundai on November 29th.
He's not wrong here. The WSU campus police did do a query of their database for white Elantras, and that was done at 12:38 a.m. on November 29th. And then a half hour later, somebody has identified the car, and they found the car itself and ran the tags. Now, Lucky says that he thinks that's a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think these two were sort of working in tandem. One of them was looking up the cars in the database and then telling the other guy who was on the ground where these cars might be able to be found. And they were probably looking for the car because, remember, this car was missing a front license plate, something that undoubtedly the police knew. And so they were on the ground looking for a car that was missing a front license plate. But of course, they never found one. But when they did find Bryan Kohberger's car, they ran the tags. And what that probably told them was that this person is from out of state, from a state that doesn't require a front license plate, and that this person changed the plates on November 18th. So that alone looks pretty sketchy.
And if they were on to Bryan Kohberger by November 29th, and he was a person of interest, which I believe that they actually had his name sooner than that. But let's just say November 29th. Why not just bring him in for questioning?
Now, I think the answer to this is the same answer to why did they issue a BOLO to the public on December 7th when they had identified the car on November 29th. And I think the reason in both cases is they wanted him to think that they had no suspects or were looking at somebody else. And I think that's because they didn't want to spook him. They didn't want him to leave. They wanted to watch him, probably so that they could see if he disposed of anything or if he went somewhere to maybe dig up the weapon and, revisit the experience, which is common for a lot of serial killers, I think he was a serial killer in the making. So I think they put all that out there, including the wrong model of the car, to make him too comfortable in the hopes that he would somehow mess up. And I'm sure if there was one thing that they wanted was that weapon. So they could have been hoping that he was going to do something maybe in the middle of the night, maybe, drive somewhere for like an hour and a half at night and potentially dispose of clothing, of souvenirs, or of the weapon. Now, Lucky also mentions that he had heard from some people who called into the tip line but never heard from law enforcement. And that's probably because through the details they provided in their tips, they probably made it clear that they were sort of way off base. That whatever they were looking for, like say they saw something at 2:30 in the morning or et cetera, et cetera. That's why they play things so close to the vest and they don't give a lot of information. Like when the coroner said that they were all attacked in their beds, or they were all asleep, or they were all found in their beds. She might have been instructed, don't reveal anything about where the bodies were found, because only the unaliver would know somebody was found on the floor. So you can't necessarily assume that they're lying or they just don't know what they're doing. There's usually a method to the madness. And they need to be able to filter through tips and evidence in a way that's productive and effective, because time really is of the essence. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think about these points? Leave your thoughts in the comments.